I believe that we need to domesticate our democracy.
How?
We took it through from the Western concept of democracy, be it the American concept or be it the Westminster concept of democracy, but we never domesticated it so as to be in sync with our wishes, aspirations, and norms. That is to say, while the question of tribe may not be an issue in the Westminster concept of democracy, for us in Kenya, it may be an issue. And by the way, if you think it is not, it would not therefore have been important for us to put it in the Constitution that when we are creating government, be it government departments, government organs, that we need to have regional balance.
Hey there and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. It's a beautiful day here in Nairobi, Kenya. And it's exciting that at least I can have a sit down with Wakili because I've been looking for him, but he's been very busy with the campaigns. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Thank you so much for inviting us to Alpha House. I think I'm one of your followers in those spaces. And most importantly, I love the dancing as much as I'm really hesitant to being invited to that arena.
Two left feet.
Because I really do not know how to dance. But you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
Very commendable job. You are acting in those spaces that is needed at this particular time.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is Wakili Ndegwa Njiru, constitutional lawyer. Yeah. And now, are you an official of the Wiper?
Yes. I am not an official, but official member.
Just an official member
of Wiper Patriotic Front.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
And obviously, there is a good reason why the party changed its name, if you may allow me.
Yes.
Part of the reason and the most important reason that the party mutated into a front was because we wanted to capture the spirit that is hovering in Africa. The spirit of change, the spirit of pushing for what is right, the spirit that is being pushed by the Gen Zs. So we realized that we needed to plug ourselves in that particular space. And that necessitated to change our political party identity, including the ideology. And
so what's the new ideology? It's good you've touched because someone was asking me. It was just a political conversation, and they were saying they do not understand what Kalonzo stands for. Like, what's his ideology?
Anybody perhaps doubting what His Excellency Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka stands for must be a foreigner in Jerusalem.
Well,
for one reason is that if it is a question of consistency and predictability, then he holds those virtues and character. And a good example would be when it came a time that he was to stand with His Excellency, the late Raila Odinga, he took and held that position for 15 good years.
Yes.
Even when time came that he was not the preferred running mate, he still kept Baba as a close political confidant and as a man in whom he believed in. Look at what has happened since William Ruto came into office. He has attempted to mutilate our democracy, erode our gains, mutilate our constitutional standing. But His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka has stood firm. He has refused, and I have heard him consistently, time and again, saying that he cannot associate with this regime. And he has told them off. So that aspect of being predictable is an important virtue in the political space. Number two, the fact that he has been in the political space for over 40 years and there is no single corruption scandal that can be pinned on him Again, that is a very, very big plus for him, that he believes ideology, he believes in the rule of law, constitutionalism, he believes in accountability, he believes in transparency, he believes in the inclusion of the people, and the whole hallmark of democracy. That is what defines, and that is what should define a leader of our times.
Why do you think many people feel he's not? I'm looking for the right words.
Yes.
Like there's just something that doesn't come out about being, Raila Odinga was obvious. Everyone
Yes.
could tell he wants to be president.
Yes.
So for Kalonzo, he wants to be president because he said it, but there's just something about not being fully into it.
Every era or every situation perhaps invites a different reaction. During the Second World War, there was Winston Churchill.
Yes.
In England. He was Winston Churchill who was required to steer UK and during that particular time of the Second World War. And then after Winston Churchill, there came Margaret Thatcher. So Margaret Thatcher was operating in different space from what Winston Churchill was operating. So you cannot say that England has never had, or Britain has never had, any other prime minister, because Winston Churchill operated in a different space from which Thatcher was operating. So it is, even for Kalonzo and Raila Odinga, they operated in different space. Raila Odinga was operating in the times and periods when we were agitating for the new constitutional dispensation. They operated in that particular space because even His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka midwifed the process of the new constitutional dispensation. One was Laudi, the other one was diplomatic. Therefore, you cannot say that you can compare the two leaders because everybody has his own approach. It should be remembered that it is during the time when Kalonzo was a vice president that a new constitution was delivered.
Yes.
And of course, I know where you are coming from, Sarah. I know you are coming from the tag of the watermelon,
yes.
Something that we want to face. And I know you are a bit hesitant to put that question directly to us. You need to understand that tag was placed on him by the late Raila Odinga. You also need to understand that was during the time of the clamor for the new constitution, when we had green and red. Green for yes, red for no. Of course, William Ruto went for red. So Raila Odinga then merged the two things and said, huyu hayuko kwenye katiba ya yes ama hayuko ndani. That's why he came up with the whole aspect of watermelon, because
so it was an indecisiveness.
But it was meant to demean him. It was meant to discredit him for no good reason. And it served the purpose of that particular time. But again, we are operating in a different space. Kalonzo Musyoka must be judged from today and what he believes in today and what he stands in for today.
So has he become more decisive?
It is not that he has become more decisive. He has always been decisive because the position that he has always taken has always been done decisively. And that is why today he's a strong leader of the one-term movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
You work with him a lot.
Closely.
Yes. I would want to know, why does he want to be president?
Well, before I joined Kalonzo Musyoka Daktari, that's the first question I ever put to him. Why do you need to be president? He sat me down and he walked me down the memory lane. And we got to where we are today, and we got to 2010, the new constitution. He told me, first of all, remember that Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka is a lawyer.
Yes.
He's a senior counsel.
Yes.
And he believes that if this country was to be taken back to the path of constitutionalism and to the path where the rule of law reigns, and that is actually my conviction, this country will sort out 80% of the problems that we have. And I'll give a good example that he gave to me. He gave me a good example like that of procurement. Procurement process in this country is guided by the Public Procurement and Disposal Act.
Yes.
There's also another act called Public-Private Partnership Act, which is also a procurement instrument. So he gave me an example and said, if we were to follow the Public Procurement and Disposal Act strictly and faithfully, we'll have sorted out the manner in which government procures, be it procuring for services or for projects. Remember, much of the wastages that happens in government happens during the time or in the procurement spaces.
Yes.
So he believes, and we equally believe as Wiper, that if you were to follow the rule of law, today, 80% of the problems would be sorted. Number two, if we were to implement the Constitution as it is, again, 80% of the problems in this country will be sorted. I'll give you a very small example. Article 10 of the Constitution. Article 10 of the Constitution provides for the values and the principles of governance. One of the principles I have heard His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka speaks is a question or the principle of accountability. That we want to hold leaders to account. The real money that is collected or the little resource that we collect, are we faithful to the manner in which we expend the same? Look at the question of transparency again, which is under Article 10. When we say that we want to sell off our parastatals, one, are we doing it in transparency manner? And I'll give you a very simple example what His Excellency Kalonzo did the other day. When William Ruto decided that he's going to sell JKIA to Adani, he went to court and argued the petition against the sale, successively argued the petition against the sale of JKIA. When Gen Zs were kidnapped, abducted, and killed, again he was in the forefront, fighting for their release. When it became so unbearable for the regime, to the extent that they had even to charge them under the POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act, I saw him spend days in committee law courts, because he believes in the rule of law. He believes in giving people their right to participate as granted by the Constitution. Another example that would tell you or lay bare who Kalonzo is. He was in the forefront of advocating for the 25th of June every year to be a public holiday, because he believes that that signifies the epitome of political participation when it comes to the people.
That's a good thing.
He believes that Article 37 of the Constitution must be respected and must be upheld. And therefore to say that people cannot go to the streets as an alternative voice where people needs to, where government institutions have failed, they have been compromised. He believes that there's an avenue. And then I did ask him, but Your Excellency, when you get to power, people change.
Yeah.
How will you convince people that you'll not become a William Ruto? You'll not become the previous president? He said, if I was to change, I would have changed in my early days of my leadership. He says now he's an old man. He's not looking for wealth. He has educated his children. For him, he says he wants to get this country, take it back on rail, streamline institutions, grant them their independency, and then hand over the country to the next generation. That is what he says.
Okay. Interesting. I hope
Yeah.
I can have a sit down with him and get to understand.
Yeah, of course. We will make arrangements
You'll
with
make
the
it happen.
systems so that you can also put these questions to him.
Yeah.
And I believe he will not contradict me.
Okay.
At
we
any
are
given time.
waiting.
Because he believes, just like any other person, that the country is headed on the wrong direction. He believes we can sort out our economy. Then I did ask him, how will you deal with the issues of corruption? He said, if you want to deal with issues of corruption, first of all, you, the person pushing for that agenda, must not be a corrupt person.
Yes.
And so to me, granted the fact that he has been in the public service for that long, and I have not had any scandal against him, then he's the best person.
I can mention to you one scandal.
Yes, please do.
There's the NYS land scandal.
Ah, yes.
You may not be. No. He will answer the question.
No, I will answer you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll answer you because I was involved in that process.
Okay.
And I remember some times back, either in the month of July or June, we attended a meeting at his Yatta land. Then I did ask him, Your Excellency, why have you brought us to Yatta, yet we have unanswered questions about this land? He took us down the path, how he ended up acquiring Yatta farm. He actually purchased it.
Illegally?
He purchased it, I don't want to mention the names of the vendors, through a bank facility. When it became apparent that we had to answer that, we accompanied him to the DCI office's headquarters. We took all the conveyancing documents. One, from the letter of offer. Number 2, the sale agreement. Number 3, the facility from the bank. Number 4, the payment deposits, how the land was procured. And he was able to substantiate and explain to the DCI that if you think that I grab this land, then take actions against me. To date, they have never taken any action. And he has always been ready. Anytime, even when you invite him, you get an opportunity to have him here, ask him that question.
Obviously,
he will answer that question and tell you it is those people who cannot spot any spot on him that alleges that he grabbed that land. But he bought it.
Okay.
The land had been allocated and it had been correctly alienated by the government of the day.
Let's leave it to him to make it
absolutely
clear.
But I can confirm that I was there when we took the documents to the DCI.
Okay, that's good enough for now. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Now coming back,
do you have any other question about his
the rest he will answer?
No. I can tell you that is the only allegation people give about him.
By the time I'm sitting having a sit down, I will make sure.
And you can even ask people to make calls, live calls right now, and anybody identifies any scandal against him.
Okay.
None.
Wow. I like that, the confidence with which you're pushing. Now, coming back to the United Opposition, Kalonzo is a member of this so-called United Opposition with Rigiji, Martha, Natembea, Eugene, and everyone else.
Yes.
How is it coming along? Because there are rumors that the United Opposition is disunited because of interests.
I think anybody imagining that those people do not know what is needed for this country is again a stranger in Jerusalem. We are united. And I'll give you a very small example. Yesterday, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka spent his whole day in Magarini. And he has been in Magarini, I think, for 4 days now. In Magarini, the member of parliament who is contesting for this by-election is a DCP candidate. But it's Kalonzo Musyoka who is campaigning for him. In Mbere, the member, and by the way, in Magarini, Wiper had a candidate whom we stepped down in favor of the DCP candidate. Don't forget.
Okay.
It tells you that our interest is not personal interest. We are not driven by personal interest, and that leadership is not driven by personal interest. is driven by the desire to recorrect what has gone wrong in this country. Again, in Mbere North, Rigiji and his battalion have been in Mbere for the last 2 weeks. The candidate in Mbere is a DP candidate.
Yes.
Rigathi had his candidate whom he stepped down in favor of the DP candidate. In Malava again, we were all there. His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka was there. Eugene is there. Natembea is there. Matiang'i was equally there.
Yeah.
Matiang'i is Jubilee.
Yes.
Kalonzo is Wiper. But they were all there campaigning for a DAPK candidate. If that is not a show of unity, then I don't understand then what unity then could be described to mean or to be, if we have not demonstrated our desire and our ability to make sure that we are together for the interest of this country. Yeah.
Oh.
So these are selfish individuals, selfless individuals who are following up the desire to be together to resolve the problems that have surrounded this country.
Okay, looking at the amount of resources
Yes.
The government has put,
Yes.
the opposition has put for this by-election,
Yeah.
why is it so, why are by-elections so critical for this country? Yesterday we saw Rigiji denied entry in Narok,
Yeah.
and we had police. I mean, we've seen, from what I hear in Mbere, there's a lot of money in circulation
Yes.
for the campaigns.
Yeah.
What is it about by-elections and proving a point?
You know, I'm trying to restrain myself from using the word Kasongo. I don't know whether I can be allowed to use it because...
It is okay.
Thank you so much, because you're giving me difficulties in pronouncing his names, because even his names are in doubt whether it is the real. But let me use the one that is in the streets, that people now conferred upon him, and he definitely accepted it.
Yeah.
William Ruto knows that he has lost the confidence and the trust of the people. The William Ruto of 2022 is not the William Ruto of 2025. People have lost hope. They've become hopeless. They have become poorer. Institutions have collapsed. Our education system is in shambles. Our health system has become a conveyor belt for death. And yet he understands that he has lost the touch with the people. When we went around the country, because I've gone to almost all the spots where we have the by-elections, the people there are in one term. I never heard any person speak about any good about William Ruto.
But you know, you were there as opposition. Of course, when the government people came, it was 2-term for them.
You see, as a result of inducement, as we are not inducing any person, we are not ferrying people in buses as they are doing. We are meeting locals and organic crowds that are not organized by anyone. For him, he's ferrying people. I was in Mumboni yesterday, where we have the Wiper elections for the MCA. We saw them coming with people. Individuals were coming with the people even from as far as Kibwezi. And a person will not have any participation in the manner in which people will make a decision on Thursday. So they are spending a lot of our money, misusing and misapplying our resources to appear to be popular. But those are bought crowds. Even when they induce them and bribe them, wakitoka tu hivi, wimbo ni 1 term. So this 1 term is not just something that we are saying. It has now become an ideology and a way of life. Because in 1 term ideology, in it, we have the question of transparency. We are saying 1 term because we want to put into place a government that is accountable to the people. We are saying 1 term because we want to put into place a system that is transparent. A system that respects and observes the rule of law. A system that respects democracy and the participation of the people. If this regime ever imagined about the respect of democracy, they would not bring police officers to bar somebody to campaign during an official campaigning period. Because this regime is taking us to where Moi was. They have not come into terms and into the realization that we have a new constitutional dispensation that calls for a fair playing ground. But again, the other unfortunate thing is, and it's a tragedy for this country, is that most of our institutions have been held captive by William Ruto. And the worst of it is the IBC. When you have an arbiter who decides to take sides, when you have a judge who decides to take sides and only sees evil when it is done by the opposition and sees no evil when it is perpetrated by government, then you must realize that we're in for a rude shock.
But you mentioned the respect for democracy. Do
Yes.
you believe democracy actually works for, say, this country or even Africa?
Well, you invited me into a good topic. Personally, I believe that we need to domesticate our democracy.
How?
We took it through from the Western concept of democracy, be it the American concept or be it the Westminster concept of democracy, but we never domesticated it so as to be in sync with our wishes, aspirations, and norms. That is to say, while the question of tribe may not be an issue in the Westminster concept of democracy, for us in Kenya, it may be an issue. And by the way, if you think it is not, it would not therefore have been important for us to put it in the Constitution that when we are creating government, be it government departments, government organs, that we need to have regional balance. The whole idea of saying, oh, we need to have regional balance is a softer way or a cosmetic way of saying, consider my tribe. So when you look at democracy from the lens, from the Westminster concept or from the American concept, you'll think that I do not need to consider my Kikuyism or my Luoism or my Kalenjin tribe. But yet, a Kalenjin feels represented if one of their own is in government. Today, if we were to form government and form and that's the problem that William Ruto has, that he has completely populated government with his kinsmen. But then we are told, oh, we need to have a government that does not resemble a tribal basis or anything. So domesticating democracy, in my view, means that democracy must be able to realize our challenges. But we cannot be able to realize our challenges noting the infiltration that Muzungu has always had on us.
And you know, there are these word that your candidate, who is Kalonzo,
Yes,
is a project of the West.
Which West?
The Muzungu, you have said, that has infiltrated our democracy.
I can tell you that I almost speak to him daily, and hardly a day can go without me having a meeting with him. I have never seen that. I have never heard that. And again,
He's not.
He is a Kenyan project.
Okay. Critics argue that what happens
is a one-term movement.
Okay. Critics argue that normally in politics, but
West, you made me lose. We're almost losing the strain of where the rain began beating us. Is that when we received this concept of democracy, we failed to realize that we in Africa, we had undergone a lot of phases, which were very detrimental to us, to our culture, custom, and practices. It all began with the transatlantic ocean slave trade.
Yes.
The majority of us were shipped from Africa, taken to sugar plantations, and to develop what is currently so-called the modern Europe and the modern America. After that, we were colonized. values and virtues and practices that were foreign to us were imposed on us. Meaning that the way we understood governance in our Kikuyu custom was altered by the infiltration.
Yes.
If we were being governed by a council of elders, the Westminster thought that that is an inferior way of governance. When they went to Uganda, they found an operational Buganda kingdom with the Katikiros, with the entire functional system, parliament, judiciary. But for them, that was not a functional democracy.
Do you think that it was not a functional democracy, or it was a way of sustaining neocolonialism? Because the Mzungu perhaps back then knew the future of this colonialism. Maybe in future these people might win this.
Yes.
But if they win, what happens? Then we put in our system, so then we have control, even futuristic.
Absolutely. And that is why today we view democracy from the lens of having a ballot paper here, a ballot box, and a person going to cast that ballot box. But in Africa, we had better mechanisms of identifying leadership. Look at the Mwanamtapa Empire. Wasn't it a functional democracy? Look at Shaka the Zulu down there. Wasn't he leading a military? Look at Sokotaure. Didn't we have functional democracies? To me, to the extent that we have not domesticated this concept of Western democracy, to appreciate our challenges, to appreciate whom we are, will always be a problem. Let me give you a small example. Today, hardly a month ago, in Tanzania, we had a president who was elected in a democratic process and allegedly garnered 97.2% of the votes.
Yes.
According to the Western concept, this president is duly elected. We have in Burkina Faso, somebody called Ibrahim Traore. He came to government through alternative routes that do not reflect the Western concept of democracy.
Yes.
The gentleman is doing marvelous and wonders in Burkina Faso. But today, the Western cannot appreciate him because there was no ballot that was placed there.
Even the Africans. I mean, African Union
because
doesn't
this
look
is
at them
puppet.
as members.
Because this is a puppet. And then, you know, William Ruto congratulated Suluhu Hassan, but he has never placed a call to Traore. Because if he was to place a call to Ibrahim Traore or Alkano Goita in Mali, he would not be seen in the right standing by the West. Yet, Suluhu Hassan has committed more atrocities and impoverished his people than what Traore is doing. So they cannot be having double standards and double speaks. That Traore is bad, Suluhu is good. You know, Kano Gaita is bad, Suluhu is good. You know, it's the high time that we liberate ourselves, emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and start viewing ourselves as a people who ought to have our own self-determinations and self-actualization moments. And that is why I have decided to join the political movement so that I can be a change within.
Not an observer.
An agent of change within the process.
How would Kenya, and here we'll use the example of Kenya, this is where we belong. How would we then morph this, because we have this democracy as it's called, but we are seeing the tenants are not working as ought to be.
Yeah.
How would we pull these few things that work? Because if you look at China, if you look at Russia, we look at them as not democracies.
Absolutely.
But are they achieving what they ought to? Is it working for the people? So how do we make ours work?
You know, first of all, like the whole idea about the the Orient world, and when I speak about the Orient world, I'm speaking about China, or maybe the so-called the Asian tigers.
Yeah.
And one of the best example then I would also give would be Singapore.
Very petty example.
A very pregnant example at the moment is that they first of all inculcated discipline in governance. Kuan Yew inculcated discipline in governance. And the Singaporean understood that you are not going to government to enrich yourself. You're going to government to serve. So the moment we take government as a tool of enriching or creating wealth, we begin to lose it. So when the reforms were initiated with an idea that the public service has been constituted or put in place for purposes of service and not for purposes of enriching yourself through tenders.
Mhm.
And when I mention tender, then you can go back to my first example about the rule of law and the importance of implementing it.
Yes.
So we can be able to change ourselves and our country if we press on discipline. Number 2, reforms that are oriented towards public service. Because public service is the engine that runs the country. When Kibaki left and went to Muiga, he left a public service.
Yeah.
When Uhuru came and he left Tishaweri, he left back a public service. When time comes in 2027 for William Ruto to go to Sugoi, he's going to leave a public service. What am I trying to show? I'm trying to show you the permanency of the public service. That public service survives a regime.
Yes.
And therefore, public service must be depoliticized. We must depoliticize and delink public service from the politics of the day, so that it can exist independently and be able to serve all Kenyans. Remember, public service is the one that delivers the executive projects.
Yes.
So this idea of saying, I need to be where government is so that I can get a road allocated to me and money allocated is a corrupted way. It tells you that public service has been corrupted and infiltrated by politics of the day, that they will not allocate money for me in Kirinyaga County if I do not prescribe the governments of the day. So we must break away from those shackles and reform public service and make it a real public service that is people-oriented. By so doing, we'll have made a significant stride towards the right direction. Number 2, to change ourselves, we must make sure that we have minimized or eradicated, for that matter, public wastages, public spillage. The money that we waste through public wastages, due to having ineffective accountability mechanisms, is more than what William Ruto and his cabals are stealing in a day-to-day. Is more.
But we have the systems. The constitution has.
Yeah.
It's a gap in the implementation, right?
Yeah, but as much as we have the institutions, the regime of the day is significant and fundamental in assisting the functionality of those institutions. Yesterday we woke up to news that the EACC advised the IBC that Wamadende, or is it Wamudende? Wamadende, okay. Wamudende, or is it Wamadende, is not qualified to vie for a seat in Mbere. EACC wrote to IBC, but IBC decided to ignore it for political convenience because they have fully been infiltrated. So a democracy cannot function if institutions are not going to be allowed to exercise their independence.
What would happen if they did? Today, let's say Judiciary
Yes.
decided to, we are working on what we are supposed to do.
Yes.
Parliament decides we are doing
Yes,
what
yes,
would
yes.
happen?
Would
Because the
have
president can't go shooting people.
would have a lovable parliament. And that is why His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua the other day intimated that in Mount Kenya region, we have a problem. And he said that we elect Togeges. Togeges is a Kikuyu name of imbeciles, idiots, and name them. People who answers to the call of yes, sir, forgetting that they are in parliament to represent the people. You see, do you know why parliament cannot be independent? Because parliament being led by the speaker is a protege of the executive, is an extension of the executive. Here, Mr. Wetangula has refused to allow parliament to exercise its independence. That is why parliament has now become a rubber stamp of the executive. If the executive want to sell Kenya Pipeline Corporation, parliament is there to rubber stamp. If William Ruto want to sell, Kasongo want to sell all our parastatus, parliament is ready to stamp. So parliamentary independence is one of the things that the next regime, and I have heard His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua speak to it, I have heard His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka speak to it, is one of the things that we must press, so that parliament can be available to offer oversight. But do you know why members of parliament occasionally will be invited to think the way Kasongo is thinking? It's because they have been told that, for you to get allocation of resources and projects, you must sing and dance to Kasongo's tune.
But that is not practical because the budget is done in parliament.
They don't realize this.
So it doesn't apply.
What does not apply?
The fact that you will be allocated money because budget is done in parliament.
Do you expect idiots to understand that and imbeciles? They can't. If parliament understood its power, today Kasongo would be bowing down to them. Because the most powerful institution in this country are two: parliament and the judiciary. And we deliberately refuse to confer power to the executive to avert scenarios where the executive may become arbitrary as it is today. And that's the sole reason why we decided to completely change our constitutional architecture in terms of the executive powers. Again, and this is unfortunate that Raila Odinga has rested without having achieved this. The question of linking resources from parliament is a key issue if parliament is to exercise its independence. What do I mean? Parliament currently, with its CDF, is executing two functions: an executive function and a legislative function. So the moment we shall say that parliament is exclusively for three functions: representation of the people, oversight over the executive and other government arms, and legislation, we shall have won the purpose for which parliament is created. And they will be able to be effective knowing that, okay, people in Kirishogo, people in Kirinyaga, people in Mbere do not expect a member of parliament to come and construct roads or classrooms, because that will be exclusively the function of the executive. The moment we shall get towards that path, then we shall have the parliament that is contemplated in our constitution. And we shall have an institution that Kenyans desired and aspired to have.
Okay. Yeah. The president, even just the other day, was giving the State of the Nation speech, referenced to Singapore.
What did you call it?
Referenced to Singapore, State of the Nation address. That was
a State of William Ruto's address. I was even more blatant with the truth, and I called it the State of the Lies address.
Okay. During that address that you refer as
the State of the Lies,
Singapore was referenced several times.
Yes.
Japan was referenced. John F. Kennedy. Why do you think the president is so big on looking at the Asian tigers? All these beautiful. And everyone loves them because when we read about it, it's a marvel. But then when you come to Kenya, the implementation.
William Ruto speaks big and delivers zero, delivers nothing.
He's delivered houses.
William Ruto has no idea what needs to be done in this country. Kasongo does not even believe that this country can change. He's not even out to effect any change in this country.
He's called you naysayers oftentimes for not believing and laughing out what the plans he keeps sharing.
There are two different spaces that we operate in. If you want to go to heaven, you cling on belief and faith. But in this political space, you do not cling on faith. You cling on actions. You cling on deliveries and deliverables. So when he tells us we do not believe, how do you tell me to believe that William Ruto can implement the call for respect of human rights when his government and himself is leading in the abductions? How can William Ruto tell us that we are going to go to the Singapore way? Does Singapore government abduct its citizens? Does Singapore government extrajudicially kill its citizens? Does the Singapore government come up with projects that are geared towards stealing from its citizens? William Ruto does not understand what Singapore is all about. Kwan Yew, when he decided to change Singapore, he decided to fix corruption. In a so-called statement of public, what did he call it? I call it a state of the lies address. He never addressed the question of corruption and the question of the implementation of the rule of law, because it is under the implementation of the rule of law that the question of corruption ought to have been addressed. Remember, it is required of him to come and address the country on the steps the country has taken in the implementation of Article 10. Article 10 does not just speak about the Kenya being a Singapore. It also speaks about the question of education, speaks about the question of the rule of law, democracy, transparency, inclusivity, social justice, equity, equality. He never addressed that, because you cannot tax William Ruto to address about the questions of equality in distribution of government jobs when his tribe is leading. And you see, because he has taken captive of our institutions, an institution like NCIC, National Commission on Integration, National Cohesion and Integration Commission, they have never published the number of the people in terms of regional distribution who works in government today, because he has held them captive, because he knows if they were to publish, Kalejins would be the majority. And I'm not saying that Kalejins should not be or work for government, but they should not be the majority. And they are majority because William Ruto is a Kalejin.
So, but he's not the first. Even the predecessors was the same.
And for us, that is a balance. And that's why this country needs a lawyer to be at the helm by the caliber of Kalonzo Musyoka. Because Kalonzo Musyoka understands the dictates of Article 10.
What have you just said? A lawyer?
Yes. It comes a time when you have to make a choice of a president that you need on need-to-need basis.
You know what I'm reading? I'm taking this away. You've just put away all these other opposition leaders who want to be presidents.
No, I have not put them away.
Except for Martha.
I have only told Kenyans some of the qualities that we need to consider when deciding who should be at the helm.
So a lawyer.
Don't make me lose track.
No. I picked that one.
Yes, and it's good. There is nothing wrong with a lawyer being the president.
Nothing wrong.
Look at what is happening in Botswana with Duku Boko, a lawyer. The guy is streamlining institutions in that country. That's what he's doing. Because he understands the whole concept about the rule of law and constitutionalism. And remember, I told you when we began this debate that if we are to implement the rule of law, only 80%, the rule of law, 80% of our problems would be done. There may be a president who may not be a lawyer, but you appoint competent people who understand the process. When William Ruto decided to appoint Waziri Justin Muturi, and he has repeatedly said it time and again, and you need to go and read his book, Call to Order, that was launched just the other day. He has given count by count of how he tried the country to steer the country to the right path of the rule of law. But because you have a rock president, a president who believes that the rule of law must be mutilated for his own gain, we are not able to move. He himself was not able to move. So I am vouching that should we have a president who is not a lawyer, that president should put into place competent individuals who are going to help us implement the Constitution, because the Constitution solves 80% of our problems. And I've told His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, and even the other opposition leaders, that any person who comes to you with his manifesto and he does not make the Constitution the first manifesto, run away. He does not understand what this country needs. Because therein in the Constitution lies the solution to our problem.
True. I'm still amazed that you didn't even mention a journalist would make a good president, out of curiosity. But let me ask you.
Well, there's no one that has expressed interests.
Well, maybe they'll come.
Yeah, when they come, we shall weigh them as well.
I'm just concerned. You're saying that a lawyer would make a good president,
Yes,
which
yes,
is
in
a
my
possibility.
view.
I'm not even dismissing it's a
Yes.
possibility. But then why is judiciary, which is full of lawyers, not
Yeah.
setting the precedence of what a good president would be?
Well,
Just
we have a judiciary in this country that we wanted it to be a judiciary that conforms to meeting the wishes again of the people, the aspiration of the people. In matter of fact, under Article 159, the proviso creating the judiciary, it begins by saying that all judicial power is derived from the people and shall be exercised in the interest and in the name of the people. Of course, trying to echo the provisions of Article 1, which provides that all power belongs to the people. The sovereign power belongs to the people and shall be exercised by all state organs in the name of the people. The problem is that some of our judicial officers, and not all, the majority of them are good. The rest that are bad, the weakest link lies with the Judicial Service Commission. Not even the Chief Justice. It would be wrong for me to sit here and blame the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice has been unable to reign against corruption in judiciary. It is not the function of the Chief Justice. It is a function of the Judicial Service Commission. So if I take a complaint against a judge or a magistrate to the Judicial Service Commission, and the Judicial Service Commission fails to process that complaint, what is the Chief Justice expected to do? What can she do? And she's not the employer. She's not the one who looks at the conduct, judicial conduct. She's only leading the judiciary. So the moment we also reform some of those institutions, we'll be making again a stride. But unto you, our Judicial Service Commission is a Kasongo Service Commission. I think he currently controls the majority. So even when you have the Chief Justice there, the representation of the magistrates there, the High Court there, and they are overwhelmed by the Kasongo appointees, what are they supposed to do? So we found ourselves as being held captive by some of these institutions. So the failure for the judiciary to function as expected has been necessitated or created by the failure of the Judicial Service Commission. For example, Look at how they're going to elect the next judge of the Supreme Court, because one of them is due to retire.
Yeah.
You wait and see what will happen. They will not look at the merits. They will look at the political convenience when appointing the replacement of that judge. And that's a tragedy we have.
That's really
Because
sad.
We have failed to depoliticize our Judicial Service Commission.
So as a country, when you say all these institutions are captured,
Yes.
is it done for us? Like,
No, it is not done for us.
Because you see, if you say the executive, parliament, IEBC,
Yes.
judiciary,
Yes.
so what is expected of the people?
Okay, first of all, Kenyans must understand and learn that their institutions have been held captive, courtesy of one man, Kasongo, courtesy of one man, Githinji, courtesy of one man, William Ruto, courtesy of one man, Zakayo. So the moment we sort out Zakayo, the moment we sort out Kasongo, the moment we sort out Githinji, we'll have sorted out our problems. Because it is him who does not want the functionality of these institutions. Because if he was to allow the institution to perform, they would overwhelm him and hold him to account to the extent that you will not be able to perpetrate his corruption deals. The other day, is it yesterday or was it on Monday? He was in Uganda.
Yes.
Selling Kenya Pipeline Corporation. Is that what we told him to do? When did Kasongo become a marketing agent?
Let me ask you now that you're there.
When did he become the salesman for our institutions?
How does
Who
Kenya
mandated him to
co-own?
go and sell and negotiate with Kaguta Museveni about the sale of our corporations?
From where you see
When
it,
did he become a broker?
from where you see it,
Yes.
how does Kenya co-own Kenya Pipeline with Uganda?
There is one first of all, there is no legal mechanisms
At all?
Absolutely. And I want to challenge anybody with a legal instruments, legal legislation that mandates Kasongo to become a broker. But you know what? Parliament allowed him to sell the parastatals. So you shall not be afraid or amazed kusikia Kenya Pipeline Corporation imeuziwa mpaka watu wa Southern Sudan. Wale zile gege za rebels in Sudan. That's what he's doing. But he's not doing that for the interest of the country. He's doing that for his own personal gain and interest. Who mandated him? Which law says that the president can go and negotiate on our behalf about the sale of our public corporations? Which law says that the president shall act as a broker or as a salesman when it comes to the sale of our parastatals? I have looked at that Privatization Act, very unconstitutional act. But one thing I know is that Mr. William Ruto has not been designated as a salesman or as a broker for our institutions.
So what actions will people like you take?
Well,
You're the constitutional lawyers in Kenya.
We are moving to court. Already those petitions are pending in court. But you can see he's trying to beat the system. So that at the particular time you'll say, oh, this issue has been overtaken by events. But we have very solid, some of the judges who are ready to stand for what the rule of law dictates.
Do you think maybe that announcement was a way of trying to quell, because a few days before, the president of Uganda had threatened Kenya, denying us on the usage of, what is it called? The Indian Ocean.
Yes. Of course, I would not be amazed by answering yes in affirmative. Yes, it was perhaps a way of trying to calm down the storms, because Kasongo is always scared. Where I come from, tunasemanga anastuliwa na masikio kama hajaona pembe. You know, when you see the ears, you get very worried before you see the horns. Kasongo is scared by everything, including young people in Kenya, that he has to get a very ruthless mechanisms of dealing with them to the extent of allowing abductions. So when it's written by Kaguta Museveni, I can understand. Perhaps he was wetting his pants. I can understand. Perhaps that's why he rushed there.
Why do you think the threat came?
Because Kasongo is a weak leader. he can be threatened by another person. You know, if you see somebody who says shoot in the leg, and you're shooting your citizens, when you see somebody who calls himself a president na watoto wameshikwa na inchi jirani na hazungumzii hayo, watoto wanauzwa huko ugaibuni, wanapelekwa wanakuwa slaves na hazungumuzi hayo, watoto wanauawa kiholela holela na hayazungumuzi, it tells you these are very serious problems, a chronic problem, a cancerous problem in our country. And of course, them that comes from the lake, and this was said to us when the lake, people believes that the fish will always rot from the head. Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
What do you think is the diplomatic standing of Kenya, looking at the issues that we've been through, be it Tanzania, be it Sahrawi, be it Uganda, be it, I think, Morocco?
Yeah.
What's our legal diplomatic standing?
There is none. This country has no diplomatic policy. There's none that exists. There is no even policy on this. There's no functional foreign policy. The only functional foreign policy is Kasongo and his mates. There's nothing else. The country, the foreign engagements and diplomatic engagements are determined by Kasongo himself. That is why, to date, our young people are being killed in war between Russia and Ukraine, and nobody has spoken about it. Our young people are being made slaves and turned to slaves huko ugaibuni. Nobody has spoken about it. Even when Museveni said, hawa vijana nilikuwa nimeweka kwa friji yangu, nobody said. If it was happening in a country that is responsive to the plight of the citizens, those things would not have gone unanswered. The first thing you'd have done is even to sever diplomatic relationship with that country. But to date, our own citizens have been killed in Tanzania. A teacher was killed. To date, his whereabouts, his remains are not even known.
Yeah.
Can you tell me can you convince me that we have a functional foreign policy? What can Mudavadi do? What does he understand about foreign policy?
Well,
we're in shit.
I saw a video where he was dishing out jobs to the son of somewhere in Malava, I think. The MP who died.
Yes, because we challenged him.
So he was he gave him a job as an attaché in Pretoria in a campaign rally.
You know,
so,
can I use a better word? You know, I don't know how to describe that man, but I heard Halwale describe him as bure kabisa. He said Halwale said, Senator Kaboni Halwale said that in Western there are two people. He described Wetangula, he said he's bure, and his brother Mudavadi is bure kabisa. So we have bure and bure kabisa. He does not understand that our new constitutional dispensation barred any state officer from making roadside declarations. That's what I'm telling you. The problem lies in the manner in which we implement our rule of law and our constitution. If that guy understands where we stand today in our new constitution, he would not promise people jobs. In any case, he doesn't understand that it's not him who employs. Employment is done by the Public Service Commission. And you can see there is completely disconnect between his thinking and where we are today. And that's why we need to have a leader who is going to get this country back on rail. That jobs will not be promised and roadside declarations will not be made because we said no to it. How will he get that job? First of all, is there an allocation, a budgetary allocation for that job that he created? Where will he, and how will he pay him? And how does he think that Kenyan money belongs to him, that he can dish out to any person that he so wishes? Don't we have an employment policy in this country that now Mudavadi has become Bure Kabisa has become the policy? We need to get this country back on rail. And I am convinced, beyond reasonable doubts, that the day we shall get this country back on path to the rule of law and constitutionalism, we'll have sorted out the mess in this country.
Okay. In Africa at the moment, of course, the Sahel region is becoming a big deal for other Africans who look at it and think these are cool leaders, but they're working for the people.
Yes.
But there's also democratically elected presidents in Namibia and Botswana
Yes.
who are working for the people.
Yes.
What do you think they're doing different that can be taken?
Well. Sarah, when I listen to the president of Namibia, Her Excellency, I'm forgetting her name.
Nadia someone.
Nadia.
Yes.
I listened to a speech she gave recently when she was sacking the prime minister.
Yes.
And you could see a leader who understands what her country needs. Do you know what I did? I sent that speech to His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. And I followed up to confirm whether he has listened to that speech. I sent it to His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. I followed up with them to see whether they have listened to that speech. Equally, I gave it to Waziri Eugene, Waziri Muturi, and everybody in our group. And I followed up and I told them, gentlemen, with all due respect, I beseech you to listen to that speech. It tells you that we can change ourselves if we make a determination to change. It tells you that change is possible. It tells you that if we get right people in the right place at the right time, we are able to change the continent of Africa. We're able to change our own countries. The lady Nadia in Namibia is doing a wonderful job, a great job. And in her speech, she appreciates what Ibrahim Traore is doing in Burkina Faso. She also appreciates what Kano Gaita is doing in Mali. You know, we must ask ourselves, what is necessary for us? Delivery of services or a resemblance of democracy? We must ask ourselves those hard questions. If the process of democracy does not yield the character of presidents and leaders we want, shall we be enslaved by that process? Or can we break away from that process? Because in Burkina Faso, what has happened is that they broke away from that enslavement process. And today they have a functional government. They have a government that is responsive to the plight of the people. Or should we stick to this enslaving this process and change the manner in which we do our things? So it's a self-introspection process that we ourselves must engage actively. And you can see what PLO Lumumba is doing in this country. And actually across Africa. He is doing a marvelous job of calling for African resonance, the reawakening of Africa, the realization of Africa, the self-actualization of Africa. And he's being assisted by Dr. From Zimbabwe called, I'm forgetting her name. I remember, someone can remind me the name of Daktari. She's doing a marvelous job. Because they are telling us, can we go back to when Kwame Nkrumah declared or thought about the unity of Africa? Can we go back to the meeting that was held in Monrovia and ask ourselves, when the meeting was called in Monrovia by our founding fathers, what they want? PLO speaks very ably about Kaisaka Kasame and the speech he gave in 1902 about the redefining of Africa, the realization of Africa. What is it that we can do? Africa presents a big market for our people.
Yes.
But we are still held by the shackles of colonialism and neo-colonialism. I am told that if I go to Uganda, I cannot trade with my Kenyan shilling. I have to do and some transaction.
Yes.
I have to, if I go sit, Kwacha cannot trade in Kenya. You know, we must realize ourselves and also align ourselves in that direction where we are calling for the unification of Africa. I'll give you a very small example. Is our education system compatible to the education system of our neighbors? Is CBC system compatible to the system of our neighbors in Ethiopia or Southern Sudan or Congo or Tanzania or Rwanda or Burundi? Yet we are busy saying we need unification. We need conglomeration of Africa. We need free trade. But if we cannot trade with people, services, our education system is not compatible.
Yeah.
How then shall we realize our potential? But it has been designed by Mzungu to remain like that so that we may never have the opportunity of exploiting our ability and our potential. Because a harmonized education system is a platform for the unification, be it political unification, social unification, or economic unification, because it will give some resemblance of identity.
Yeah.
You know,
When you look at it from the points you're raising, we even have what they call the regional blocks.
Yes.
East Africa has the EAC Jumuiya. The West Africa has what they call ECOWAS.
Yes.
There is the SADC as you go down.
Yes.
But all this, then, even in our own eight countries, we are not together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we match up with SADC?
We got a problem, and the problem lies in our leadership. And of course, the Western puppets that we have, led by William Ruto, Kaguta Museveni, and the rest. Those puppets are the ones undermining the African's ability to realize itself. Why do I say so? Because they have been put there as stooge to make sure that we never speak in one voice. We cannot have a common currency. We cannot have an identity education system. We cannot have a road that runs from Nairobi to Dakar, a road that runs from Nairobi to Maputo, a road that runs from Nairobi to Johannesburg. We cannot. We can't have those trunks. And deliberately, it has been made to happen by the persons who have held us captive. So the day we shall get a president and presidents in Africa who realizes our potential and the need for us to speak in one voice and unify, we shall change this continent and change this country. But look at what is happening in the AU. AU is a conglomeration of octogenarians that are there to serve their interest and not the African interest. Look at what is happening in Congo. In Cameroon. Is it 89 years old?
Paul Biya.
He's not even an octogenarian anymore. I don't know when you advance that age what you are recorded to, you are described to be. The beggar cannot understand. The guy cannot even understand himself.
But French,
the French are there.
Yeah.
The French are there because they have held him a captive. They would not want Congo to be what it is. They have sponsored war in Congo between the English speaking and the French speaking. You know, we have been held captives. Yesterday I was speaking to a gentleman who works with UNICEF, and I was telling them, you UNICEF, what are you telling us? Oh, we have what they are calling sustainable development goals. Oh, by this time we should have achieved them. And I told them, young man, you coming to tell me and convince me how we are going to achieve these so-called development goals when we can't speak the same language with my neighbors in Congo, when Congolese are seen as strangers in Kenya, when Burundis are seen selling coffee and jugu karanga in our streets, and we consider them as foreigners, we cannot have that realization. And I told them, the first thing that you must do if you want to realize the so-called sustainable developments is to first of all understand what are we sustaining and what is the importance of these goals And whom are we developing? And how are we developing? And on what platform are we laying these developments on? So my conversation ended by telling them that you cannot tell me that you speak about development goals when to date, 60, 70 years down the line, Africa has no permanency in the United Nations. So he was trying to convince me how positive it is that part of the United Nations organization is being moved to Kenya. Then I asked him, of what benefit shall it be to us? Shall that make Kenya or give Africa a permanent seat in the Security Council? Or how will it impact on us? I told him that is new colonialism. You're only bringing your colonial institutions and organs here in Kenya to continue enslaving us. But we must have a situation whereby people must rise up like what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Ibrahim Traore has refused fear to lead him. Nadia, Her Excellency Nadia, has refused to be held captive and be enslaved by fear. She has said there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And the moment we hold our feet and put our feet down and not be intimidated by fear of the Western and their so-called power, is a day this country, this continent shall begin to rise.
I love that. So you don't think it's a good idea that the UN is expanding?
So how will it impact on our economy?
Maybe jobs.
Which jobs? Which jobs? What quota has been created? And that's what this guy called Mudavadi should be telling us. What quota have you negotiated with the United Nations about the local empowerment and employment? Because in my view, there ought to be a certain quota that must be said that this number of jobs must go to Kenyans. Have you heard them speak about it? Zero. They even have no idea that they can negotiate for quotas. Absolutely zero. We are being led by idiots. They can't understand this. So when you tell me that they are moving these organs here in Kenya and they have not negotiated on how the country will benefit. Number two, in international realms, and when we engage them, there's something called the exchange of curriculum vitae. The exchange of curriculum vitae is how will that project, if you employ Chinese to run it, how will it impact on the local job market, and how do you develop the local curriculum vitae? For example, the SGR or the expressway is being run by the Chinese.
Yes.
But a time will come when the Chinese will close in and there will be a transition to the local, to Kenyans.
Management.
Is there preparation for that transition? That is what's called development of local curriculum vitae. So how will the UNEP or whoever is coming help in facilitating our curriculum vitae? And then, Sarah, we're in big for road shock. As we pride ourselves in hosting the UN, we are busy cutting down trees and degrading our forest cover. I mean, I don't know. It's very frustrating and embarrassing.
It's two-way.
Yes.
But anyway, let's see how that goes.
Yes.
Because I think UN has its way of operations,
but they're operating in a free, democratic, sovereign nation.
You just questioned our democracy, so perhaps that's where we need to relook at it.
They should be in operating in that realm. And most importantly, even if the democracy itself does not work, we consider ourselves as a sovereign state. At least that one nobody can dispute.
Yes.
So what apportionment are you giving or are you reserving for this sovereign state? Considering that the sovereign state is a state because there's a population.
Yeah.
What benefit is apportioned for that population? That's a question. It should be asked by any person because they're operating within our borders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't need to be a president. You don't need to be a minister of finance or a minister of foreign affairs for you to put that question. Because
But you need to be a foreign affairs minister to explain to
yes,
the people.
there ought to be something we call quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
yours.
They will be depleting our resources. They will be applying pressure to our resources.
Yes.
Be it roads, electricity, water, sewage, you know. The farmers will be selling sukuma wiki there. They are applying some certain pressure.
Yeah.
So how, as a country, are you going to compensate us for that pressure that you are exerting on us? For example, we'll be required to expand our sewage system.
Yeah.
Who is doing that? And what allocation has been done, has been apportioned for that? And is it we Kenyans who are apportioning that allocation for the expansion of the sewage, or is it the UN? We'll be expanding, of course, our roads to accommodate the pressure. Who is doing it? You know, we are operating like the country is a secret society. Nobody understands what happens. So William Ruto is leading this country like a secret society. And that is why I take you back to the rule of law. Article 10 requires transparency and accountability.
I think for me, the most interesting thing when I was reading about that expansion is that I found out it's a very big project.
Yes.
Which is supposed to inject about 340 billion
Yes.
into this country.
Yes.
And the government is quiet about it because 340 billion.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
It's big
dollars,
money.
But the silence is
it's big
questionable.
money.
Yeah.
So who is in exclusive control of these funds? You know, William Ruto.
No, the
Ruto,
speech was actually from the Director General UN. She was the one giving the amounts.
Yes.
So
yes.
From that, I suppose it's their money.
But
and
you
maybe
see,
that's why they
it is
silence.
their money, but supposed to be applied in a sovereign state.
Yes.
We do not lose our sovereignty because we are playing host to the UN.
Yeah.
So our systems here and our legal regimes must be respected.
Yes.
And upheld. Because if you're ejecting, you said
340 billion.
40 billion.
Yes.
You are ejecting that money into our economy. Have you had any impact?
So far, none.
Zero.
Maybe people doing construction have felt, because I understand there's already construction ongoing inside the UN.
But how many Kenyans are doing it?
Of
how many
course, it's
Kenyans
not many.
corporations are doing it? How many Kenyans have been employed there? Let me tell you, none. If there was any Kenya or any Kenyan corporation participating in that space of 340 billion, William Ruto would have spoken about it when he was giving the State of the Lies address, to associate himself with that, because he always like associating himself with such kind of things. So to the extent that there is no Kenyan benefiting with that project, William Ruto cannot peg it as part and parcel of his success.
Okay.
It tells you we have zero benefits.
All right. As we come to the end of this conversation, what's your prediction for the by-elections? Because I know it's giving you people a lot of sleepless nights.
Actually, it's not a prediction. It's a fact.
Facts.
We are going to run Kasongo out of town.
Where and where?
Mbeere North. We are going to run Kasongo out of town in Malava constituency.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to run Kasongo out of town in Kapchai ward in Western. We are going to run Kasongo out of town in Magarini. We shall run Kasongo out of town in Momboni North with Wiper Patriotic Front. And he's also struggling and gasping for breath in Baringo. notwithstanding the fact that he was able to compromise Mr. Moi.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a lot of confidence.
So we are urging people in all those constituencies, including the one in Narok and the one in Kajiado, we are also going to run them out of town, is to understand that the vote they're going to cast is a vote to liberate themselves. Is a vote that you shall cast against abductions, extrajudicial killings, corruption, lies, kiburi, saying that this country has never had a president like me. It's a vote to restore order and the rule of law in this country.
What if you lose? What happens to the united opposition?
If
you lose all of them, especially the MP seats.
We are not united because there's a by-election. The by-election found a rolling united opposition. So it's not the by-election that has united us. We are united even before they came.
If the president's people win in these places you've mentioned, what does that mean for him and for you?
That's a pipe dream. It's impossible for them to win. But they are ready to buy votes, to bribe people. They have already orchestrated a mechanism of rigging. They are telling people, when you go to the ballot box or to the booth, have your phone, take a photo of the candidate you have voted for, the government candidates, and bring it for money. But we are saying the IBC must take charge on this. One of the tenets of universal suffrage is the secrecy of the votes. The moment you take a photo of the candidate you have voted for, breaches the fundamental principle of a free, fair, secure elections, because you have breached the fundamental principle of the secrecy. That's why it's called secret ballot. That is why anybody will access the polling station will be forced or compelled by the law to take an oath of secrecy. So we are urging whoever is in charge, and I would wish to face that camera, whoever is in charge of running this election, to understand that a breach of the secrecy of the process amounts to a fraudulent election, to an election that is null and void. And that must be avoided. People must not be allowed to go to the booth with their phones unless the IBC is complacent to this process. If we do not allow students who are sitting for the KCC to go in with their phones, and there's no oath of secrecy or secrecy in the process, why should we allow a person who is going to be instrumental and fundamental in determining your sovereignty to breach that secrecy? Any vote that goes out there, either physically or through electronic means, will automatically amount to a fraudulent electoral process, because you'll have breached the question of secrecy and the security of that election and the transparency of that election. So the chairman of IBC must make it as a rule of all the presiding officers and the returning officers in charge of those elections to make sure that such practice does not happen. And if it does happen, we in the United Oppositions, we are taking stock. We will go for the person where the buck lies or rests, and that is the chairman of the IBC. This time round, we'll not target the entire team. We'll go for the person who bears the greatest responsibility.
That's the chairman.
Yes. Of course, we already have a problem in Magarini, that the deputy chairperson of the IEBC has been involved in electoral malpractice in Magarini. And His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua has actually indicated that in his letter. How can you have a commissioner who is supposed to be an neutral arbiter and an impartial person participating in an election? I mean, these guys are underestimating Kenyans. And their actions will have dire consequences in the manner in which the stability of this country will be determined. Because I don't believe Kenyans will sit down and watch their democracy, their sovereignty, and their country being run down by a cabal of few individuals. If Kenyans were able to come out and defend and fight the finance bill, how much do you think they will do? Or to what extent do you think they will do if they sense that the process is not free and fair? So the IBC has a unique situation of inviting Kenyans to believe in them and to have confidence in them that they can execute a credible election.
True. And I want to believe they will do that because that is their work. Advocate, thank you
Yes.
so much for coming through and sharing with us. It's been a fantastic
Thank you so much.
period.
Yes.
I don't know if you have any closing remarks to people who are watching.
Well,
Also, wait, are you running for any political seat?
yes, I am running for a seat in Kirinyaga
Mhm.
for the senatorial.
Oh, okay. Good luck with that.
And allow me to just mention about it.
Yes.
We have consistently kept on saying that politics is a dirty game. It is dirty because good people have allowed, it's dirty because we are clean people have allowed dirty people to participate in that space. This change we are speaking about is a change that first of all will come from our souls and our self-introspection and individual determination for change. It is not a change that is going to be brought by mere ballot. We ourselves, we the people, we the voters, must be the agent of change that we desire. We will not have that change if the person that we are electing is being influenced by inducement. So I am operating in this space, even in Kirinyaga, to make sure that we bring good people into government. And I urge all Kenyans to reconsider and reevaluate and evaluate the person who is going to be either your president, your MCA, your governor. Why? Because, Sarah, as we pen off, character is very important in this coming election. If you had a person who had a question about something like Western Hotel having been grabbed, then you elect him president, he will even steal Karura Forest. Ataiba mpaka KICC kwa sababu alikuwa anataka kuiba, tukakataa. So character is a fundamental point of evaluation that a person who is going to become president of this country must have a character that squares out with the law. They say he must be like the Caesar's wife, a lamp without blemish, beyond reproach. And it's actually biblical. Because when Jethro went and met Moses, and he found that Moses was in the jungle, he was acting as a leader, the judge, the chief, the doctor, he cautioned his son. And he told Moses, select among your people men and women who are incorruptible. That was one of the character that Jethro advised Moses to do. So it is biblical for you to elect and select among yourself men and women who are incorruptible. And we are presenting to you those men and women who are incorruptible. Because character is what will determine the virtues and the values that are going to be implemented in this country.
Yes.
If we elect a thief, don't complain when he pickpockets you. As I pen off, character is what is going to determine how government will be run. If we elect a greedy person who wants to sell your parastatus, convert everything into his own personal use and gains, then don't complain. But we, the United Opposition, because we believe in those virtues that I'm speaking about. We shall present you with candidates and a presidential candidate who is beyond reproach, who is above, who is beyond reproach, who is incorruptible, who is humane, who is responsive to the plight of the people. I mean, how is it that a president can say shoot on the leg, in the leg? Is that a humane person? Is that a person that would wish to be a president? If we are already in this mess, what will happen? And God forbid, if Kasongo would become president for the next 5 years? Oh, we cannot afford to imagine this. And so, fellow Kenyans, take time to reconsider the person who you want to be your next leader. It's fundamental for us, is a religious duty, be ye a Muslim, be ye a Buddhist, be ye a traditionalist, be ye a Christian. It's a solemn duty that you have to do yourself a soul searching and self-introspection.
Even to the atheists.
Even to the atheist. You know, even an atheist has a soul. It all begins with the soul. It is not the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran that makes you a person. It is the innate you that God put in you, the software that God put in your heart and in your soul that makes you what you are. So, irrespective of the religion you profess, reconsider that voice in your soul. Ask yourself whether this country is headed in the right direction. Ask yourself, would you want a president who sells all the parastatals? He sells JKIA. Would you want a president who presents to your mother fake fertilizer? Today, as I pen off, it's a very important point for me too.
I hope it is the final pen off. Yes.
I have read from the papers that the government has allowed carcinogenic chemicals to be imported. Those chemicals that we're spraying our crops with are causing cancer. Is that the kind of the country you'd wish to live in? Where the government allows chemicals that are not applicable in America, in Europe, to be applied here? Is that the government that you wish to have in place? If your answer is no, then prepare yourself to send Kasongo home and put into place a government that is going to secure your health. As we import and allow the importation of those chemicals, our public health system has collapsed. So they allow the importation, business people makes a kill out of it, and you end up being sick, going to the hospital, and there is no facility to consider your health. Is that the country you'd wish to live in?
Beautiful way to end it. I love that. That's a very beautiful reflection to end with. And if you're watching, by the way, and you want change or want to, maintain the status quo, the only way you do that is making sure you participate in the process. For you to participate, you need a voter's card.
Absolutely. So
for me, my parting shot, if you have not registered, please ensure go register, because when the voting time comes, we shall need your vote for whichever side you stand for. That's up to you. Thank you for watching today's episode. We'll catch you on the next one.